Have you ever stopped to think about what really goes on, not just, on the field, but deep inside the minds of the coaches, the players, especially when a huge soccer club is under massive pressure in a really high-stakes tournament?
Yeah, the pressure is immense in those moments. It's fascinating.
Exactly. And today we are diving headfirst into exactly that kind of scenario.
Welcome, everyone, to our deep dive into a very recent and absolutely decisive soccer match. Real Madrid's commanding 3-0 victory over Red Bull Salzburg.
And this wasn't just, any old game. This was a critical Group H finale.
Okay.
And it was in the newly expanded FIFA Club World Cup.
Right, the big one.
Exactly. A tournament that's basically been reshaped to deliver this, unprecedented level of intensity right from the start. And the stakes, as I'm sure we'll get into, were just exceptionally high. It demanded a kind of strategic depth you rarely see, frankly, in early-stage competition. Absolutely. So with that context set, let's just jump right in and unpack the nuances of this pivotal match. Our mission here in this deep dive, for you listening, is really to pull out all the essential insights from the sources we've looked at. We're going to dissect those key moments, really analyze the tactical masterclass, or what looked like one, from their new manager, Xabi Alonso. We want to highlight the individual brilliance, the stuff that truly separated the elite Madrid side from the challengers in Salzburg, and explore what this big result means for Real Madrid going forward in this prestigious and definitely expanded tournament.
Yeah, we'll look at the data, the quotes, the implications, kind of give you that shortcut to understanding the different layers of this really pivotal victory.
Exactly. What's so fascinating here, I think, is how much this one single match tells us. Not just about where elite soccer might be heading, but how these, legacy clubs like Real Madrid are kind of forced to re-engineer their identity, especially under new leadership.
It really proves that adaptability is, it's the new form of dominance, isn't it? In this constantly evolving global soccer landscape. You can't just rely on history.
That's such a crucial point. Adaptability. And when we talk about high stakes, this match was the absolute definition of it. This decisive Group H finale, it took place June 26th, 2025. 1:00 a.m. UTC, which I know is a bit of an on time, but it was over at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia.
Right.
Going into it, both Real Madrid and Red Bull Salzburg, they were level. Both had 4 points each in the group. But, and this is key, there was that slight edge for Madrid because of goal difference.
Always crucial.
So what that meant, practically, was they only needed a draw, just a tie, and they'd comfortably advance to that coveted round of 16. A loss, though, that could have sent them packing. Huge difference.
And again, this wasn't just your typical group stage game where maybe you can afford to slip up. This was part of that newly expanded 32-team FIFA Club World Cup format.
Big change.
Massive change. If you think about the wider implications, this new, larger format just creates significantly higher stakes for these group matches compared to, any previous version of the tournament.
Yeah, gone are the days where maybe the big clubs could just coast through the early rounds, maybe experiment a bit, without real consequences.
Exactly. Every single point, every goal, it truly matters right from the first whistle. So for Real Madrid, this comprehensive performance, this 3-0 win, it wasn't just getting the job done. It was a profound validation. It showed their status under this new intense pressure, basically proving they could thrive in what's become a far more unforgiving environment.
It's like a crucible, isn't it? Designed to test the champions immediately.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
It's a remarkable shift, really. The tournament itself has undeniably, grown up. And Real Madrid, their legacy in this competition, it just speaks for itself. 5-time champions. That's not just a statistic you throw around.
No, it's dominance.
Yeah.
Historical, sustained dominance.
Exactly. So to see them deliver such a comprehensive performance, a truly commanding 3-0 victory, especially under the, let's face it, relatively new guidance of manager Xabi Alonso, it really cemented their status as strong favorites right out of the gate.
It was that initial resounding validation, kind of broadcasting to everyone else, yeah, we're still here, and we're still the team to beat, even in this new era.
It makes you ask, though, how do these established powerhouses like Madrid adapt to this evolving tournament landscape while at the same time revalidating who they are, their core identity?
And this match, I think, provided a really compelling, almost tactical blueprint for exactly how they did that.
And the way they answered that question, it really came down to 3 absolutely decisive moments that defined this victory. Now, for the first, 40 minutes or so, Despite Real Madrid having obvious control of the territory, constantly probing Salzburg's defense, the scoreboard just stubbornly stayed at 0-0.
Yeah, it was tense, wasn't it? Almost suffocating. You could feel Madrid pushing hard, but just unable to find that final clinical touch.
And they had chances. In fact, Vinicius Junior had a really clear early chance. He was clean through on goal, just the keeper to beat, and he missed it.
Oof, yeah. I remember that.
You could almost hear the collective groan or gasp from the crowd. And that miss, it just seemed to ratchet up the anticipation, the pressure even further. You could feel the weight of expectation on every single pass, every run after that.
But what's particularly insightful there, I think, is how that early miss, far from deflating Madrid, maybe actually heightened the psychological stakes. It sort of set the stage for a dramatic shift later on.
Interesting point.
And the breakthrough, when it finally arrived, well, it was a masterpiece. Individual brilliance, yes, but born from collective vision and really precise execution. It was Jude Bellingham operating in that slightly more advanced midfield role for this game.
Yeah, pulling the strings.
Exactly. He delivered this perfectly timed through ball, and it wasn't just a pass. It felt like a surgical dissection of Salzburg's defense, expertly splitting their backline right down the middle. The weight, the angle, almost impossibly precise. It's the kind of pass that makes time just seem to slow down for a second.
And then Vinicius Junior took over. And what a takeover it was. His first touch, his control of the ball, absolutely masterful. Just shows that elite technique, even running at full tilt. Then he executed this fantastic cut inside, weaving past not one, but two Salzburg defenders, which in itself was remarkable given how tight the space was. But here's where it gets really fascinating, and I think it speaks to his evolution as a player.
The
finish. He finished it with his weaker left foot, firing it in from the very edge of the penalty area. Now, that's a detail that speaks volumes, I think, about his burgeoning clinical edge, his development into a more complete forward.
Definitely. It wasn't just the goal itself, it was the composure, right?
Right.
And that expanded skill set under immense pressure. It really showcased both Bellingham's incredible vision, obviously, but also Vinicius's developing ability to finish decisively with either foot. That's the mark of a truly dangerous, world-class attacker finding another gear.
Absolutely. A huge moment to break the deadlock.
Yeah.
And if that first goal was, let's say, a clinical statement, the crucial second goal was, well, it was a psychological hammer blow, delivered at the most devastating moment possible, deep into first half stoppage time, mere seconds before the halftime whistle.
Oh, the timing. Brutal for Salzburg.
Brutal. The timing was everything, and Vinicius Junior involved again, of course.
Yeah.
But this time with an assist that was just audacious, even by his high standards.
What happened exactly?
Well, a deflected ball kind of landed near him in a really crowded penalty box.
Yeah.
And instead of taking a touch, maybe trying to shoot himself through the crowd, he produced this outrageous backheel pass. Just flicked it perfectly into the path of a teammate.
A back heel in that situation.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. The sources we looked at described it as one of the tournament's most spectacular assists. And you can see why.
That takes some nerve and vision.
Incredible guts, audacious vision, supreme confidence. Vinicius himself actually said later it was one of the nicest assists I've given in this shirt.
That's high praise coming from him, considering the moments he's already produced.
So who was on the end of it?
Federico Valverde. He received the ball perfectly in stride and just delivered a composed, close-range finish into the net. Simple as that once the magic happened before him.
So if we connect that back to the psychological picture of the game,
Yeah.
that goal right before halftime has to be just psychologically devastating for Salzburg. That's the only way to put it. You go into the break 1-0 down.
Yeah.
Okay, you regroup. You still have hope. Maybe you adjust tactics.
Right, you're still in it. But you go in 2-0 down, having conceded such a spectacular, almost undefendable goal right before the whistle. A moment of individual genius that just feels impossible to stop. That's not just a different team talk in the dressing room. That's a fundamental crisis of confidence that a team like Real Madrid is going to ruthlessly exploit in the second half.
It absolutely shifts the entire dynamic, doesn't it? One team is flying high, buoyed by this unexpected dramatic advantage. The other's just profoundly deflated, facing this massive uphill battle against an opponent that just demonstrated it can beat you with clinical efficiency and moments of sheer brilliance.
Exactly. And Real Madrid, they weren't done applying the pressure, even with the comfortable lead. Gonzalo García, the young forward, he sealed the victory in the 84th minute, making it a definitive 3-0.
How did that one come about?
It stemmed from a swift counterattack, actually. It began with Trent Alexander-Arnold, who we'll talk more about later, playing an intelligent ball forward. And it really capitalized on a defensive error from Salzburg's Joanne Gadou, just pounced on the mistake.
It shows Madrid stayed switched on, didn't just coast. Ruthless exploitation, even late in the game.
That's the mark of a top team. And Garcia's finish, well, it was described as a delightful chip over the Salzburg goalkeeper, Christian Załęcki.
Oh, lovely finish. Composed, elegant, the kind of goal that just puts the perfect cap on a dominant performance. Highlights a striker with, ice in his veins.
But what really stands out about Garcia's goal, maybe even beyond the skill of the finish itself, is the specific praise he got afterwards from Xabi Alonso.
Oh, yeah. What did Alonso say?
Alonso, who we know has this incredibly keen tactical eye, specifically compared the 20-year-old striker's intelligent movement off the ball to none other than Real Madrid legend Raúl.
Raúl. Wow, okay. That's not a comparison you throw around lightly at Real Madrid.
Not at all. It implies an exceptional understanding of space, of timing, of that predatory instinct, especially for such a young player. It speaks volumes about Garcia's potential, his tactical awareness, and just how highly Alonso rates his future prospects within this squad. It suggests Garcia's already thinking the game, moving on a level beyond his years, positionally speaking.
That's huge. That comparison alone gives you a rare insight into how Alonso evaluates players, doesn't it? What he values most in a forward, maybe not just the goals themselves, but the often unseen work, the intelligent runs that create the space for those goals.
Precisely. But these goals, as brilliant as they were individually, they weren't just isolated moments. They were really products of a meticulously crafted tactical chessboard laid out by Xabi Alonso. His tactical masterclass, you could call it, was genuinely on full display in this match.
So what was the setup? How did it work?
Well, he deployed what looked like a flexible 4-3-3 formation on paper, but the key was how it seamlessly transitioned into more of a 3-4-3 system, especially during build-up play.
Okay, so not static. It shifted depending on the phase of play.
Exactly. This isn't just about, static numbers on a tactics board or theoretical shapes. It's all about fluid movement, dynamic roles for players, and crucially, creating numerical advantages in different areas of the pitch depending on where the ball was and what they were trying to achieve.
So how did that actually look on the field? How did it create that dominance we saw?
Well, take Antonio Rudiger, for example. Often a central defender, right? But during possession, he would frequently step forward from that back three, becoming almost like an auxiliary defensive midfielder.
Right, breaking the lines from deep.
Exactly. It allowed him to carry the ball into space, receive passes higher up the pitch, adding another dimension, another angle to their build-up, making it harder for Salzburg to press effectively. Meanwhile, you had Aurelien Tchouameni providing that crucial midfield stability. He was the anchor, shielding the defense, winning the ball back, recycling possession efficiently. This allowed for greater control and more progressive passing options.
Okay, makes sense. And this is where Alonso's special sauce comes in.
This is where the genius, or at least the signature style of Alonso's system really shines. He implemented his trademark structured freedom approach. It's something he really honed and refined during his, let's face it, incredibly successful time at Bayer Leverkusen.
Right, Zebby ball, as some call it.
Yeah. It's a philosophy that emphasizes positional players understanding their zones and responsibilities, but crucially, combined with coordinated pressing triggers. It's not about players just aimlessly running around. It's about empowering individual creativity and decision-making, but within a rigorous, well-defined collective framework. Everyone knows the plan.
So structured freedom, it sounds like a bit of a paradox, but I get it. How did the pressing work then? Was it just constant high pressure?
No, and that's a crucial distinction that often separates these elite modern systems from just, chaos or running yourself into the ground. It wasn't about constant, indiscriminate, high pressing where everyone chases the ball relentlessly, which often leads to fatigue and disorganization. Instead, Madrid employed a highly selective mid-block. They would initially allow Salzburg to progress the ball to certain areas, often deliberately forcing them wide into less dangerous zones near the touchline. Then they would press, but as a coordinated unit.
Ah, the triggers.
Exactly. They'd swarm the ball in specific predetermined zones, effectively trapping Salzburg players, cutting off passing lanes, winning possession back with almost surgical precision rather than relying on individual tackles all over the pitch.
Clever. So what was the outcome of that disciplined, intelligent approach?
The outcome was clear as day. It completely prevented Salzburg from establishing any kind of rhythm or control in central midfield areas. It stifled their creative players who need time and space. And it thoroughly confused Salzburg's own pressing structure because they weren't sure when or where Madrid would suddenly engage. Ultimately, it allowed Madrid to just dominate possession. FOX Sports had it at 66%, which is indicative of overwhelming control.
Wow, 66%. That's huge in a game like this.
It really is. And within that incredibly sophisticated system, certain key players just thrived. It showed how the tactical framework amplified their individual talent. Jude Bellingham, for instance.
He was brilliant.
He was perfectly deployed in that advanced playmaker role, almost like a free-roaming number 10 at times. This gave him the liberty to pull the strings, connect passes, create danger in the final third without being, perhaps, overly burdened by deep defensive duties. It allowed him to just focus on his incredible offensive output.
And Valverde, we mentioned his goal.
Valverde, as we touched on, showcased that incredible box-to-box versatility. He was just everywhere, shifting seamlessly between playing almost as a right-back defensively, then popping up as a central midfielder, and even making runs like an attacking wide player, providing defensive cover one moment, then bursting into the opposition box the next.
A true all-rounder.
Exactly. These decisive uses of their top talents, tailoring their roles to their specific strengths within this flexible system, really showcased Alonso's tactical acumen and his ability to get the absolute most out of his star players. What this all means, really, is that Madrid wasn't just winning because they had better players, though they did. They were winning because they were operating as this highly organized, adaptable unit where every single player understood their role and how it contributed to the overall collective strategy.
Which stands in pretty stark contrast to Red Bull Salzburg, right? They faced some significant challenges that directly impacted their ability to compete at this, well, frankly, elite level.
Absolutely. They lined up in a more traditional 4-4-2 formation under their coach, Thomas Lech. It's a system that typically relies on defensive solidity, staying compact, and hitting teams on quick transitions.
Standard Salzburg approach.
Pretty much. However, they were significantly hampered coming into this game by missing key players due to injury. This included their first choice starting goalkeeper, Alexander Schlager, the really influential midfielder, Nicolas Capaldo, who's kind of their engine room guy, and the dynamic forward, Karim Konate.
Wow, that's the spine of the team almost.
Yeah.
Keeper, midfielder, forward.
It undoubtedly weakened their core, robbed them of crucial experience, tactical versatility, and individual quality in absolutely vital positions right across the pitch. You take those three out, and it's a different team.
And it wasn't just about the missing players, was it? Salzburg also came into this match with some, let's say, pre-existing defensive vulnerabilities that had already been exposed in previous high-stakes games, particularly in Europe.
That's right. The sources we looked at explicitly pointed out that they had been conceding, on average, 3.3 goals per Champions League match this season leading up to this tournament.
3.3 per game. Ouch.
Yeah.
That's alarming at this level.
It really is. So when they came up against Real Madrid's technical superiority, their blistering pace in transition, especially with Vinicius and others, and those precise tactical movements we talked about, well, these weaknesses were just thoroughly exposed, almost ruthlessly so.
Yeah, Madrid just picked them apart at times.
Their backline really struggled with Madrid's fluidity and movement. Their midfield, missing Capaldo, was bypassed too easily, and they simply couldn't impact the match significantly going forward because Madrid exploited those defensive gaps with devastating efficiency whenever they turned the ball over. It just highlights how, at this absolute top level, any crack in your defensive foundation will be found and exploited, especially by a clinical team like Real Madrid.
It really underscores how crucial things like squad depth and fundamental defensive solidity are, doesn't it? Especially in this demanding, expanded format of a tournament like the Club World Cup.
Absolutely. When you face an opponent as clinical and tactically sophisticated as this Real Madrid side, and that's compounded by pre-existing defensive frailties and missing key players, any weakness isn't just exploited, it's amplified. It almost becomes a fundamental mismatch on the day.
Okay, so speaking of clinical, let's shift focus a bit and talk more about the architects of this victory, the individual brilliance that was really on display from Real Madrid's squad. And we have to start with the undisputed man of the match, Vinicius Junior.
No question, he was sensational.
His statistics alone tell a compelling story of just how influential he was all over the pitch. He had, 2 key passes, a phenomenal 9 progressive carries, meaning he was constantly driving the ball forward into dangerous areas, and 3 successful take-ons, just showing off that dribbling prowess.
The numbers are impressive, but it was more than that, wasn't it? His goal, as we discussed, showcased truly clinical finishing with his weaker left foot, which, again, is a huge development for a player maybe previously known more for his pace and dribbling than his pure finishing, especially with his left.
Definitely a sign of his evolution.
But that audacious back heel assist, I think that was what truly demonstrated his creative evolution under Alonso, as the sources put it. It wasn't just a flashy move for the sake of it. It was a moment of genuine, inventive genius, born from an elite understanding of space and timing, and it just completely unlocked Salzburg's defense in a super crowded penalty area.
And his comments after the match. Really powerful, that quote. I've always said that I want to stay here my whole career.
Yeah, you love to hear that commitment.
That's a huge statement from a player who is increasingly becoming the absolute face of this team, a global icon who seems genuinely rooted in Madrid. It speaks volumes, I think, about the project Alonso is building and Vinicius' absolutely central role within it.
Totally agree. That's the kind of dedication the fans adore, isn't it? A true embodiment of the club's spirit. Then alongside him, you have Federico Valverde, often described quite accurately, I think, as the versatile engine of the team.
He earned an impressive 8/10 rating from most major outlets, and you can absolutely see why. He played, effectively, both right back and central midfield roles within the same game, seamlessly adapting to Alonso's flexible system. That's incredible versatility.
And his crucial goal just before halftime, as we keep coming back to, was just so decisive. A real game changer psychologically. But beyond the goal, it was his tireless defensive work rate, tracking back, making tackles, combined with his exceptional technical ability driving forward. It really exemplified why Alonso made that direct comparison to Steven Gerrard.
High praise indeed.
Extremely high praise. It highlights his ability to influence the game massively in every single third of the pitch. He does it all.
And Jude Bellingham, another 810 performer. He just continues to be this absolute playmaking catalyst for them, doesn't he?
He really does. That defense splitting assist for the opener was maybe the highlight, but he was constantly involved in Madrid's build-up play, always looking for the ball, always looking to connect passes, always trying to push the tempo, and constantly seeking to break lines with his incisive forward passing.
And the connection between him and Vinicius, it seems to be growing game by game.
It really is. That synergy is becoming a truly formidable force for opponents to try and figure out. It looks like a partnership built on, I don't know, mutual understanding and really complementary attacking instincts. They seem to be developing this almost telepathic connection at times. It's exciting to watch.
Definitely. And we also saw a highly anticipated moment in this match. Trent Alexander-Arnold making his official Real Madrid debut.
Yeah, big moment for him.
Huge moment, a significant transition, moving to a new league, new country, new system. He certainly provided an attack outlet, didn't he? Showcased that incredible passing range we know he has, and his astute ball forward directly led to Garcia's goal. So a goal contribution on debut.
Can't argue with that.
But it's also important, I think, to offer a balanced perspective here. The sources did note some defensive vulnerabilities that Salzburg actually managed to exploit, particularly in the second half when maybe the game was a bit more stretched or he was isolated.
Yeah, that's always been the question mark, hasn't it? Even at Liverpool.
Exactly. It just shows that even truly elite players have areas for development and adaptation, especially when moving into a new system, a different tactical setup, a new team in a different league. That defensive integration, it takes time. It's not automatic.
Absolutely fair point. Adaptation is key. And then there was Gonzalo Garcia, the energetic finisher who popped up with the third goal. He received a well-deserved 7/10 rating, I thought.
Yeah, looked lively when he came on.
His energetic pressing, which we know is crucial in Alonso's system for winning the ball back high up the pitch, combined with that really clinical chip finish, he genuinely impressed. And then you add Alonso's comparison to Raul.
Right, the Raul comparison again.
It just reinforces Garcia's innate potential and, maybe more importantly for Alonso, highlights his intelligent movement off the ball, which is such a hallmark of elite strikers, knowing how to find those pockets of space in crowded penalty areas. He's definitely one to keep a very close eye on for the future. It looks like a smart player.
Okay, so that covers the Madrid standouts. What about Red Bull Salzburg? I mean, even though they were under immense pressure and suffered a pretty comprehensive defeat, were there any individual efforts that sort of stood out or deserved a mention?
Yeah, definitely. Christian Zawaszczycki, their goalkeeper, was arguably their best player on the night. Despite conceding 3 goals, which, let's be honest, he couldn't do much about for most of them, he made several really crucial saves, particularly that point-blank stop from Vinicius Junior's big early chance.
Ah, yes, the one Vinny missed. The keeper did well then.
He did really well. That save prevented an even larger deficit much earlier in the game. And without him, frankly, the scoreline could have been far worse, maybe even more psychologically damaging than 3-0 already was. He kept them respectable for longer.
Fair enough. Any outfield players catch the eye, even in a losing cause.
Well, Oscar Glock, who's a player with considerable talent and a reputation for creativity, he really struggled to impact the match significantly. And that, I think, speaks volumes about Madrid's intense, coordinated pressing.
Just snuffed him out.
Yeah, pretty much. It highlights how even really talented individual players can be completely stifled when the opposing tactical system is just so dominant and denies them the time and space they need to operate and weave their magic. He just couldn't get on the ball in dangerous areas. And maybe Adam Degem. He was identified by some outlets as Salzburg's best attacking threat on the day.
Oh, yeah.
He was consistently trying to make runs, trying to break lines, and did force Thibaut Courtois into action on at least one occasion. Showed some flashes of danger, some determination, even when things were going against them. But overall, it was tough going for Salzburg's attackers.
Yeah, sounds like it. So we've talked about the decisive moments, the key players, the tactical battle. Now let's really get into the nitty-gritty. The numbers, because the statistics, I think, tell a really compelling story of Madrid's dominance and maybe the significant quality gap between these two teams on the night.
Yeah, the stats often paint a clearer picture, don't they?
Yeah. They do. First up, possession control. Real Madrid maintained a commanding 66% possession, according to FIX Sports. Now, that clearly illustrates their control over the flow and tempo of the game. They were dictating where and when the ball moved, basically.
And what's interesting there, actually, is that ESPN recorded a slightly different figure. They had it at 55.6%.
Okay. Why the difference?
Well, this kind of variation in calculation methods is actually quite common across different stats providers. It often comes down to how they define a possession chain or maybe how they handle incomplete passes or transitions, different algorithms.
Right. But the main takeaway.
The overarching message remains absolutely consistent, regardless of the precise percentage. Madrid controlled the ball significantly more than Salzburg, and they dictated the rhythm of the match. And crucially, this wasn't just, sterile possession, keeping the ball for the sake of it. It was possession with real purpose.
They certainly commanded the ball. And it wasn't just about having the ball, it was about what they did with it, right?
Yeah.
The intent behind every pass.
Exactly. The Spanish giants, Madrid, had a significantly higher pass accuracy rate overall, which demonstrates their technical precision under pressure. And they truly dominated in the progressive passing statistics. Meaning they were consistently moving the ball forward effectively and dangerously, looking to break Salzburg's lines, penetrate their defensive structure, rather than just playing safe, sideways or backwards passes, always looking to advance.
And any individual passing stats stand out.
Well, to illustrate that individual brilliance within the team structure, Vinicius Junior himself achieved an impressive 83.3% long ball accuracy in this match.
Wow, 83.3% on long balls for a winger.
Yeah, which for an attacker who often operates in tight spaces and relies on quick combinations, that's outstanding. It shows his incredible range, his vision, and his technical ability to switch the point of attack or find runners accurately over longer distances adds another dimension to his threat.
That's a really interesting stat. So if we connect this to the broader tactical picture.
Yeah, it underscores not just their technical precision, but that profound tactical intent we talked about. They weren't just passing to keep the ball, they were passing to break lines, to penetrate the defense, and ultimately to create high-quality scoring opportunities.
And this disciplined approach, it extended to their defensive game too, didn't it? The foul count was quite telling.
It really was. There was a stark contrast. Salzburg committed 6 fouls throughout the match. Often you felt maybe out of frustration or just being caught slightly out of position by Madrid's quick movement. Whereas Real Madrid, they committed only a single foul in the entire 90 minutes, according to FOX Sports.
1 foul in 90 minutes. That's incredible discipline.
It's remarkable. And notably, both teams received 0 yellow or red cards, which does indicate a disciplined encounter overall, despite the high stakes. But Madrid's superior fitness, maybe, and certainly their tactical organization became really evident, particularly as the game wore on in the second half. It allowed them to maintain that discipline while still effectively winning the ball back through coordinated pressing and interceptions rather than resorting to desperate tackles.
So fewer fouls, more control, more precision with the ball. That's a pretty powerful combination for winning soccer matches.
It certainly is.
What's interesting, though, is that when you look at the total number of shots taken, Both teams actually produced 12 attempts each, 12 shots apiece.
Yeah, on the surface, that looks even, doesn't it?
It does. But here's the crucial difference, isn't it? The one that truly separates the elite finishers from the chasing pack, Madrid's clinical edge. They had a remarkable 25% conversion rate, scored 3 goals from their 12 shots, compared to Salzburg. 0 goals from their 12 attempts.
That's a 100% difference in actually putting the ball in the net from the same number of attempts. Huge disparity.
It really makes you ask, why? Why such a profound difference in finishing, despite an equal number of shots?
Yeah, it's a great question. And while expected goals or XG data wasn't publicly available for this specific match, unfortunately, it's pretty clear just from watching the game and analyzing the tactical setup we've discussed that Real Madrid consistently created much higher quality chances.
Okay, so it's not just about the quantity of shots, but the quality.
Exactly. It wasn't just about how many times they shot, but the superior movement off the ball, the better decision-making in the final third, and the sheer technical execution in and around the penalty box that led to truly clear-cut, high-probability scoring opportunities.
So better positions, less defensive pressure when shooting.
Precisely. Their pre-shot movements, the timing and precision of their final passes, and just the composure of their finishers, Vinicius, Valverde, Garcia, meant their shots were generally taken from more advantageous positions, often against a less set or scrambling defense, compared to Salzburg's efforts, which might have been from further out or under more pressure. Quality over quantity.
That makes a lot of sense. Quality of the chances, not just the raw number. And interestingly, even the set-piece statistics were relatively even. I think corner kicks were split 6-5, slightly in Salzburg's favor, according to ESPN.
Yeah, so it wasn't like Madrid won through some set-piece masterclass either.
No, exactly. It really came down to their overwhelming dominance in open play, that tactical superiority we dissected, and ultimately their clinical finishing ability that decided the outcome so convincingly.
And we can actually visualize some of this, particularly Madrid's attacking dominance and Vinicius Junior's profound influence, by looking at the heat map insights from the match.
Oh, yeah. What did the heat map show?
The analysis showed Vinicius Junior had an incredible 34 touches in the final third of the pitch. That was the most of any player on the field, from either team.
34 touches in the attacking third. Wow, he was living up there.
He really was. What that indicates is his constant presence and pervasive influence in the most dangerous areas of the field. He was directly impacting Salzburg's defensive structure throughout the game. His intelligent positioning constantly stretched Salzburg's defensive line, pulling defenders out of position, creating crucial gaps and space for his teammates to exploit.
So his movement was key, not just when he had the ball.
Absolutely. His direct running, that blistering pace, combined with his improved decision-making, particularly enabled Valverde's crucial second goal. It came from Vinicius drawing defenders towards him, creating space through those intelligent movement patterns. It showcases how Vinicius wasn't just a goal scorer or an assister in this game. He was a vital tactical tool for disrupting the opponent's entire defensive shape and creating pathways for others to score as well. A complete attacking focal point.
Okay, so putting it all together, the win, the performance, the stats, what does this all mean for the road ahead for Real Madrid in this Club World Cup?
Well, this dominant performance has undeniably created a very favorable tournament pathway for them. By topping Group H with 7 points that came from 2 wins and 1 draw in the end, they secured a much-desired round of 16 matchup against Juventus.
Juventus. Okay, tough team, but maybe not the toughest they could have faced.
Exactly. Strategically, this is huge, because it allowed them to avoid the potentially daunting prospect of facing Manchester City, who are arguably the other top favorite in the tournament at this relatively early knockout stage. Avoiding City is a massive advantage.
Definitely simplifies the path.
Absolutely. If we connect this to the broader tournament picture, this more favorable draw provides Real Madrid with a very realistic pathway, you'd have to say, towards the semifinals. Looking further down the bracket, the winner of their match against Juventus could potentially face either Benfica or Atletico Madrid in the quarterfinals.
Okay, still tricky, but maybe more manageable than City.
Both formidable opponents, of course, but perhaps less overwhelming prospects than facing Pep Guardiola's City side right now. This trajectory directly rewards their strong group stage performance. It gives them a clearer, slightly more manageable path forward, allowing them to hopefully build crucial momentum and continue refining their tactical approach under Alonso in a slightly less demanding, though still tough, initial knockout fixture.
Makes sense. On the flip side, of course, is Red Bull Salzburg. Their elimination, finishing third in the group with 4 points, it really represents a significant missed opportunity for them, doesn't it? Especially given some of the pre-tournament optimism surrounding them.
It really does. You might recall their coach, Thomas Lesch, had that rather ambitious pre-match declaration. He said something like, "We're not in Philadelphia to enjoy a holiday. We're here to go far in the World Cup."
Yeah, strong words. Didn't quite pan out.
No. That ambition, unfortunately for them, was met by the harsh reality of competing at this absolute elite level. As we've discussed at length, their pre-existing defensive frailties, combined with the profound impact of missing those key players, Schlager, Capaldo, Konate, it just proved decisively detrimental against an opponent of Real Madrid's caliber.
Just too much to overcome.
Exactly. It's a really stark reminder that in these high-stakes, expanded tournaments, any chink in your armor, any weakness will be exposed, often ruthlessly. It can lead to early exits, even for otherwise very capable teams. Their tactical shortcomings when faced with a clearly superior opponent were simply too great to overcome on the day.
And just to quickly round out the final standings in Group H Al Hilal, the Saudi Arabian club, they finished second with 5 points, so they also advanced to the knockout stage.
Right, they pipped Salzburg to second place.
They did. However, their reward for finishing second is a round of 16 encounter against Manchester City.
Oof. Talk about a tough draw.
Yeah, that promises to be an incredibly challenging, if not downright daunting, matchup for Al Hilal. So while Madrid gets Juventus, Al Hilal faces a genuine mountain to climb against City.
Definitely highlights the importance of winning the group. But for Madrid, this victory doesn't just ensure their progression, it also firmly maintains their status as this tournament's most successful team historically, holding those 5 previous titles. This result positions them incredibly favorably for another championship run. And the tactical evolution under Alonso, which was so evident in this match, could genuinely prove decisive in the demanding knockout rounds ahead, where adaptability, squad depth, and the ability to execute complex game plans under pressure are absolutely paramount.
So this wasn't just about getting 3 points, it was about setting a benchmark.
I think so. It felt like they were laying down a marker for the rest of the competition.
Now let's bring in some voices from the field. What were the key figures actually saying after the match? Xabi Alonso, the manager, was clearly and understandably pleased with what he saw from his squad.
You'd imagine so after a 3-0 win like that.
He praised his team's tactical maturity, emphasizing, and I'm quoting here, "This was the best version of Real Madrid we've seen so far at this tournament. We showed better quality on the ball and more control, and when we did that, we imposed our will on the game."
Strong words. Sounds like he felt they executed the plan perfectly.
It does. And his satisfaction with the team's adaptation to his methods, that was really palpable. He specifically noted how quickly the players seemed to be integrating his vision, saying, "The players are starting to understand and make their own the tactics and guidelines."
That's huge for a new manager. It highlights the successful integration of his structured freedom philosophy, that whole approach, into the team's actual play. That's absolutely crucial for long-term success and for maintaining peak performance through a demanding tournament schedule like this. It signifies a real buy-in from the squad, which isn't always easy to achieve, especially at a club like Madrid.
Very true. And Vinicius Junior, despite his man-of-the-match performance, showed great humility afterwards, which is a trait that seems to endear him even more to the Madrid fans. He emphasized the collective achievement over any individual recognition.
What did he say exactly?
He said, "The MVP. It's the reward for all the work the team has done. They always help me with everything. It's for them."
Classy. Team-first attitude.
Exactly. That kind of attitude is just vital for morale and cohesion, especially in a dressing room packed full of global stars. And then he reiterated his long-term vision, reinforcing that deep commitment to Madrid we talked about earlier. "I hope I can stay here for many years. I've always said it's the club of my life."
Wow. Again, powerful stuff. That speaks volumes about his belief in the project Alonso is building and his own central place within it. He feels like the future, doesn't he?
He really does. And Aurélien Tchouameni, the French midfielder, he also echoed that sentiment, really highlighting Vinicius's indispensable importance to the team's overall success.
Yeah, Tchouameni's role is crucial too, that midfield anchor.
Definitely. He affirmed, quote, "He's a key player for us. He has the ability to do a lot for the team. We have to keep going like this, and so does he."
It's good to hear teammates backing each other like that. It reflects that growing team chemistry, doesn't it? And the mutual respect under Alonso's leadership, that's often a defining hallmark of genuinely championship-winning sides. It indicates a strong internal belief, not just in the system, but in each other.
Absolutely. And the media, social media, they were buzzing too, weren't they? Reflecting the excitement, but maybe also a touch of cautious optimism surrounding this new era for Real Madrid under Alonso.
Yeah, what was the general feeling?
Well, Managing Madrid, which is a prominent fan outlet, I think they captured the mood quite well. They asked the compelling question, has Gazabi ball arrived? It seems so, but it's important not to get too carried away, even if it's tempting.
Huh. Yeah, that sounds about right. Excitement tempered with realism. Always the way with big clubs.
Exactly. It speaks to the sheer excitement generated by the performance, but also that realistic caution that always comes with early season or early tournament success. Meanwhile, ESPN's analysis highlighted the controlled performance delivered under steady rain in Philadelphia, really emphasizing the disciplined and dominant nature of the victory, even despite potentially challenging weather conditions.
And the fans online, social media.
Overwhelmingly positive from what we saw, celebrating the fluid attacking play, particularly praising, as you'd expect, that developing Bellingham-Vinicius connection, and also Valverde's incredible versatility, popping up everywhere. This match truly felt like it showcased Madrid's potential under their new management, while, crucially, eliminating any lingering doubts people might have had about their tournament credentials moving forward.
Yeah, it solidified their status as genuine contenders, didn't it? Sent a message.
I think so. So, okay, let's try and bring it all together for you, our dedicated listener. Real Madrid's comprehensive 3-0 victory over Red Bull Salzburg, it was clearly far more than just standard group stage progression.
Much more significant than just the result.
Exactly. It demonstrated a profound tactical maturity, especially for a team under relatively new management, and showcased moments of breathtaking individual brilliance. And all that firmly positions them as legitimate championship contenders in this newly expanded high-stakes Club World Cup.
Yeah, you look at Alonso's tactical flexibility, you combine that with Vinicius Junior's truly match-winning performance, Gonzalo Garcia's intelligent finish coming off the bench, and the team's overall collective defensive discipline, only one foul conceded. It really does create a robust foundation for deep tournament success.
And that favorable round of 16 draw against Juventus, it now gives them a fantastic opportunity to build crucial momentum. Allows them to further refine their tactical approach, maybe continue integrating players like Alexander-Arnold in a slightly less intense pressure cooker, though still a tough game, before potentially facing even tougher opposition deeper in the tournament.
This entire performance, really, it established Real Madrid as the benchmark, the team to beat for the remaining competitors in their pursuit of what would be a record sixth Club World Cup title. It showcased a dynamic, adaptable team that looks ready to meet the complex demands of modern elite soccer.
So maybe a final thought for you, our listener, to mull over. What does this dominant performance in this new high-stakes tournament format really reveal about the future of elite soccer, and particularly the power of tactical adaptation?
Yeah, maybe consider how Xabi Alonso's nuanced approach, that blend of structured positional play fused with empowering individual freedom, how that might influence the strategies of other top clubs around the world in future competitions.
And maybe think about what it truly takes for a team to maintain sustained excellence, not just in one-off games, but across multiple incredibly demanding matches in a global tournament like this, a format that leaves absolutely no room for error. Something to ponder.